It was an odd thing to find yourself in a graveyard, poking out of their graves, a handful of skeletons, trying to escape death, as if they could. My eyes let me see no further than a few steps ahead once a harsh mist came in to choke me. "Seagless," a voice said, one I knew too well. I wiped a few tears off my cheeks and started running towards the voice. "Seagless, Seagless." Mist subsiding. The entire world around me was black, with the exception of a faint light from above that illuminated a pair of graves that lay at my feet. Ealis, King of Lathine, read the first. Porterea, Queen of Lathine, so read the second. And I fell into a grave myself. "Wake up, Seagless," cried the voices of my parents, as two demons stood above to bury me alive. "Wake up!" I jerked upwards, my saliva pouring everywhere. I'd been drooling bad through that nightmare. I wiped myself off and got up to take a look out my window. Wait, why was the city in flames? I saw people running every which way, a group of crazed men slaughtering every man, woman, and child in sight. Not even the little girls were being spared. "Guards!" I shrieked at the top of my lungs, and I ran for my door, and I shrieked again. "Guards!" I went running down the stairs of the castle and made my way to ground level. "Yavora! Heonaseed!" The screams and roars of battle, the clanging of swords only grew worse as I raced to the front door of the castle. How hadn't I seen any attendants yet? Where was everyone? I busted through the front door like I'd been catapulted, my path taking me straight into the chest of a large man. Screaming so loud it hurt, my recourse. Burying my face into my shoulder, I tried to shove the man down in vain. He was too strong for me. "My lady," the man cried, and then I stopped trying to fight him, understanding who the man was. Veseleth grabbed me by the hand and took me back into the castle, all the way to a seemingly standard hallway, after dragging me to the northern side. But the both of us knew better, opening a hidden door and dragging me into a world of utter darkness. Veseleth made sure to close it behind himself before he left me to go running off again. Hell on earth was upon us all. Hell on earth was upon us all. The screams kept getting worse. The screams reaching me kept getting worse and more distorted as time went on. Tears wiggled down my face, and falling to my knees, I could feel every goosebump running up and down my frame. In the dark, utterly silent, absolutely motionless. So was me for half an hour, until my ears caught something new. Footsteps. Harsh footsteps. I crawled away from the door and did my best not to whimper too loudly. At last, I saw something to make me stop crying. Veseleth was back. He had a candle in tow, hurried in, closed the door again. Frozen, I stayed on my knees while I listened to the screams as they hit their loudest point yet. Subsequently, the sounds of war began to fade, until there was nothing. "Veseleth," I said, my voice quivering, unable to conjure any more words. "Stay quiet, my lady," he said, his voice oh so soft, his faintly lit eyes bloating up wide, as he pressed an ear on the door. My heart kept skipping beats. I had to stay on the thought, those 4 words of his, because I was woozy now, nearly at the point of passing out. Fear had absolute control of me, control of my soul. It wasn't until Veseleth finally decided to give me an answer that I got one. An enormous force, he said, swooped in from... I cut him off. Verloia? Verloia wouldn't. No, my lady, from the south. I spat out incoherent gibberish at first, the ultimate end result being... What? And I also said, from the south? That's... There was... nothing to the south but our own land and the ocean. So had my people rebelled against me? Footsteps came from the other side of the door. To cut me off, it was hidden, so I had to imagine we were perfectly safe. All the same, Veseleth pulled me to my feet and drew his sword. We heard arguing on the other side, and then the moment I heard my name, I lost my footing. Veseleth caught me, and we heard what sounded like footsteps sprinting off. They'd been looking for me. For a few moments, there was nothing else on the ears of Veseleth and I but the sound of my breathing. They'll never find us in here, Veseleth finally said to me. It took me until now to realize that I was still in his arms. I couldn't bring myself to leave them. What are we going to do? I said. We'll wait till midnight, he said. Then head to Verloia. You have my word, princess, I will get you out of this. I was still in his arms. Again. I'd completely forgotten. Probably in part to how comfortable the strength of his grip was. Veseleth wasn't any old knight, but the greatest in my nation, in the nation of Lathine. He was a general, as chivalrous as he was strong, with soft eyes that said, I'm here for you, always. His eyes and ears were still aimed at the door. Only once I realized, for a third time, that I was still off my feet, nestling in the warmth of his arms, did I finally arise. My voice came out like a soft wind. I have something I need to get. I hated how dumb I must have sounded, but I was too anxious to keep speaking. Like any normal person would have, he assumed I was speaking of some unnecessary belonging in the castle. My lady, he said, are you sure it's essential? I nodded, then pointed down the hallway, which he did not even see me do. I had to squeak out. It's down this hallway. He looked back, and then down the corridor of darkness with me. This corridor would have been a stunning sight with just a bit more light. A sacred treasure, he said. Being general of the Lathinian army, Veseleth had been down here before, in the catacombs beneath the royal castle. Though I doubted he knew how incredible the royal catacombs truly were, or their reach. On the other hand, I could probably navigate them blindfolded. My father had personally seen to that. No more than 5 steps on, Veseleth handed me the candle, so I took it. It was soothing to hear the soft little sounds his gloves made as he gripped his sword tightly. It gave me so much strength to see his godlike physique go stepping ahead of me to lead the way. Part of his might as a swordsman was self-explanatory. There didn't seem to be a pound of fat on him. I'll lead the way, so he said. I nodded, and so had him lead us further through the hallway, under what would have been the courtyard, and we heard faint screams above. Veseleth heard as my footsteps started to get erratic, reached out like a keen cat to help keep me on my feet. My heart was beating painfully yet again, We kept on going to the room of sacred treasures. He took a step as if to enter, but then he stopped. He looked over his shoulder, making me flinch. "You had somewhere else in mind," he said, reading the look on my face. I nodded. I had us go further down the hallway, but those cursed screams, they kept getting to me. "This door?" he said. "This is it?" I nodded. I didn't have the heart for words. The thought of what could have been happening to everyone above was cutting through my heart like a knife. What we saw on the other side of the door made Veseleth shield me with his body and raise his weapon. "Statues," I said. "They're only statues." Before us stood an angel. The angel's hands were outstretched. They offered us a wrapped-up item. I swear the angel spoke to me. I swear I heard its voice in my ear, felt an aura tickling up and down my bone-white frame. "Siglas, Siglas, Siglas, Si." Veseleth's eyes snapped me back. "My lady," he said, tone reassuring and beautiful. "Are you all right?" Yes. Could you grab that for me?" The General of Lathine put a hand over his heart, mouthed something to the angel that I couldn't understand, and then took its gift. He unfolded the gift with care until, at last, the candle could vibrantly dance and flare off what hid inside. Veseleth had no words. He looked over the sword of the angel a dozen times until he had the heart for words. "That is this." He understood no ordinary blade was before us. He understood it had craftsmanship like no other. "This is the Fang of God, the holy blade," I said, melting with just as much awe. "This is Iaga, the blade that conquered the darkness so long ago." He forced it into my hands right away, taking me off guard. "My lady, please, take this. I can't take it." I wanted to be kind, but proved too much of a klutz. My brain froze. My mouth knew not what to say, so I took holy Iaga without a word. "I've got one more stop for us," I said. Veseleth and I went to a new room, to a room with armor that glistened like the sun. I was fortunate to have Veseleth around, his knowledge, and his steadfast hands. He suited me up in record time. I wasn't half of what Veseleth was with a blade, but that didn't mean I'd let him go at it alone. Dying side by side with him? Yes, that wouldn't have been the worst way to go. We went back towards the exit out of the catacombs. Everything up above had long since gone silent again. We were so close to the door out, and that was when we heard a new sound. But there was something different about this one. It wasn't from outside the catacombs. Someone was down here with us. Multiple someones. Veseleth jumped in front of me, and I held Iaga tight. Pitter-patter, 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 pitter-patter.